I have had my white shirt on the last couple of times, mostly talking about things relative to my wife, and tonight I've switched over. So I'm going to include some things about my life again. It's interesting because some of these things that I talk about, like I'll talk about tonight, kind of bump into my relationship with my wife a little bit and play a part. It's interesting how everything kind of fits together, and I start to realize when I think back on things and start talking about them that period of my life from about 16 until 18 was a pretty busy time for me. I still remember milking cows and doing work on the farm, but I did a lot of other things too. I guess I played hard and worked hard, and I know I learned a lot. I had a lot of experiences that would stay with me for a long time. And I think everything we do, even down sometimes to in the smallest details, and people that we meet and interact with, influence our lives in ways that we don't comprehend sometimes until later, and maybe not at all until way later. But what experience I've had with this teaches me that that's true, and that experiences are meaningful things. I'm going to explain one little segment of my life, and I may have referenced it once before, so you can cross-reference the details if I have, see which story I'm telling. I'll try to keep them straight. There was a period of my life during this 16, 17-year-old age that I had a good friend. And well, let me back up just a little bit. I went to the Liberty Ward. Lanark combined with the Liberty Ward when I was quite young, maybe 8 years old. And we combined with the Liberty Ward, and so there were 3 wards that ended up combining into that and to make that one ward. And we went and we attended church up in Liberty, Idaho, which is where my mother's family was from. And anyway, I had a bunch of really good friends. I was blessed to be, I'm not sure how the girls got slighted so much, because the girls our age, there was only 2 or 3 of, but the boys our age, there was like 9 of. And we had one that was just older that we incorporated into our age group too, and was a good friend. Anyway, we did a lot of things together, and they had an influence on me in many, many ways. One of the ways that I'll talk about tonight is I had a friend that tapped me as a musician. I've mentioned that I played the trumpet a little bit in grade school, or late grade school, and in high school a little bit, but I'm not going to talk about the trumpet part tonight, because I also played a bass guitar, and I didn't know anything about guitars until this friend of mine asked me to be a part of a band that they were forming. And I thought, well, I don't think I can do it, but tell me more. And he did, and kind of twisted my arm, and eventually I said yes, and we had a band on its way, and out of our little rural town there. I remember when I said yes, he said, well, the first thing you're going to need is a guitar. I said, well, what if I don't know how to play it? And he says, oh, the kind of guitar that I would like you to play in the band would be a bass guitar. It's a 4-string guitar. And He says it's pretty simple. I can show you a little bit about it. I'm sure you'll pick right up on it. He was eager to help me, and I'll never forget. We went over to Logan, Utah one day for the sole purpose, I think we were with our parents, one of us, either his parents or mine, I don't remember which, but we kind of broke off and went down on Main Street to Sears Roebuck and Company, which was where the Logan City Library is now. But they had there on their show floor a guitar and an amplifier, which was just what we wanted. In fact, it was a Fender amplifier, and they had a pretty good name, and we thought that would be just fine. We talked it over, and he said, that's the one you need. And me not knowing any different, I told the guy that was selling them, I said, that's the one we need. I said, but there's a problem. I said, the price on it is more than the money that we have. And we just had some checks and bills and things in our wallet that added up, and I forget how much it even was now, but I know we didn't have enough money. But we were really determined to get that guitar and that amplifier. And we weren't too much short, but we told him, he says, we don't have that much money. Can you come down a little bit? And he kind of looked at us like, no, we really don't do that sort of thing. And so we went outside, and I can remember standing on the sidewalk and talking it over, and I thought, well, we're not going to give up that easily. We'll go back in and try again. So we went back in and got that same salesman and told him our situation, that we were starting this band, and we'd saved all our money, and this is what we wanted, and we found it, but it's more than we've got. Can you help us out by lowering the price? This time he kind of rolled his eyes, I remember, and he went back and talked to, I guess it was a manager or somebody. And he came back out and he says, well, we can lower it. I think it was like $15, but that's as much as we can do. And we knew it had to be more than that. We knew it had to be like $35 less, or we couldn't do it. And so we told him the situation again. This time I think we almost begged. But there's something about this. He may have coughed it up out of his own pocket. I don't know. But we went back and talked to his manager again. Came back out and he said, okay, we'll, just because of your situation, we'll do it. So we bought the bass guitar and the Fender amplifier. So it was an electric guitar. And that was the beginning of my instrumentation in the band. And we called the band the Revels, R-E-V-E-L-S, Revels. The Revels. I'm not sure what that stood for, and it wasn't my idea anyway. Since I wasn't the one really forming the band, I didn't ask many questions, and we just called ourselves the Revels. And we had this friend that asked me was a lead guitar, and we had another friend that he talked into doing what they called the rhythm guitar. Both of them took more skill than I had. And he talked to his little brother, this same friend of mine that was organizing it. His name was Lyndon. He talked to his little brother into playing the drums, and his brother was quite a lot younger. I wasn't sure he was, going to be up to speed with all this, because he wasn't a very big kid at the time. I forget how many years younger. But he did it, and by darn, he surprised us all. He got the rhythm of those drums, and he could really go to town on them. And so he wasn't the weak link. I was still the weak link. And it was a fun time that we had together. I need to say, too, that we had an electric organ that we got an older, not really that much older, but a little older than we were. We knew a guy that had played it, and he kind of liked to be a part of a group like that, and so he was incorporated in. Well, he's dead and gone now, and so are some of my other friends. But this group of friends that I had in the music group are all still alive, and we bump into each other occasionally and reminisce about the good old days. Those good old days included a lot of practice sessions. And I need to tell you, there was a little, I'll just call it a shack. That's what we called it. It was a little white building that was just had, I don't know what the dimensions of it would have been, but it had 2 rooms. One room was just long enough for a couch, and it was about maybe 8 feet wide. And the other room was where we did set up our instruments. So it was hooked onto the first part, but it was more of a square room, 12 by 12 or 10 by 12 or something like that, maybe. And we got the notion that's where we wanted to practice, and I think it was my friend Lyndon again that figured we needed to paint it. And we painted it. I remember we painted it. It already had slats on the inside, and we painted every other slat a different color. It was 2 colors: black and then red, black and red, black and red. So it was a striped black and red practice room that we had lights, and we could turn a heater on if we needed to, plug in a heater and get by. But we had a lot of practice sessions down there, and it was away from the houses, so nobody needed to hear our bad music until we got it fixed better. But we had a lot of good times there after our, what we called our mutual meetings, our MIA meetings. On Tuesday nights, we would go down there and practice until quite late sometimes. I don't remember my parents really following up and saying, "Where you been?" because they figured that if I was late, I'd be there practicing, and they didn't seem to mind that I was part of that group. Well, we had several engagements. I'm just going to tell you about a few of them. Turned out that after we'd practiced a few songs, and I'm not going to go through all the different names of them, it's probably not important. The little drummer, however, did play Wipeout. And if you've ever heard that on the drum, you'll know which one that is. So it was that age group. And Love Potion number 9, and There Is a House in New Orleans was just one I like to sing. And there was that group of songs that were popular during those times. Well, anyway, we went to the little shack and practiced until we got good enough. Pretty soon people found out about us, and my friend kind of put the word out that we were ready to start playing places if people wanted to hire us. That was a real test to see if somebody would actually pay to have you come and play for them. But we had some takers, and I'll never forget. Once we went up to Lake Town, which is where my wife was from. This is before I knew her, and we played at a dance up there. I think it was the Freshman Hop or something. If I remember right, we got paid $70. And one of the ones that we were most proud of was that we were able to play. And this was after I'd got to know my wife a little bit. We played down at the south end of Bear Lake on a resort area called Ideal Beach. And it was quite a famous beach. In the summertime, there was lots of people there. There was a big dance floor, and we were invited to play there, and we were pretty tickled about it because we thought that was like the big time. And I think we did pretty good. We impressed quite a few people. I still remember at intermission we went, and I was out on the beach, talked with my wife. The beach was close by, and I walked out to the beach, and I still remember my wife being out there. Not my wife then, but I had a crush on her. And I remember it was a full moon that we had off the water, off the mountains. And she was standing there by a tree, and I have this visual of her. And for some reason, when I hear the words to the song Harvest Moon by Neil Young, both of us, it takes us back. Once we start talking about it, takes us back to that moment. And anyway, it's one of the songs today I play over and over again to remind me of that moment. Kind of a tender, happy moment for me, because I had a girlfriend and I had a band that I was part of. We thought we'd hit the big time at Ideal Beach. Well, I was only part of it. One of the things we did, we played over to Montpelier High School in their gymnasium once, I remember, for a dance they had over there. And one of the things that we did, it was kind of strange, because there was kind of a competing group over there. I forgot the name of the band, but there was an older group of guys, and they had a band of their own. And I think they were a little put out that we got asked to play at their school instead of them. And anyway, partway through the performance, the dance, one of them came down and talked to my friend Lyndon and said, "Do you mind if us guys just come down and take your instruments and play a song or two for this group?" I guess they wanted to make them aware that they're still there, and they maybe should have picked them instead of us. I don't know. But Lyndon says, "That's fine. Just come on down. It's not like we're rivals or anything. It's just we're just here having a good time, playing some music." And they came down and took the instruments and played some songs, and they did fine too. But those are some of the kinds of things that we did. And one of the things that we did, we kind of sponsored ourselves, was we would go over to Paris Elementary, Emerson Elementary it's called. It was in Paris. And we had kind of an ongoing engagement there that we made up for ourselves. We made arrangements to they had a little gym inside the school, which was the dance floor, and we had an arrangement to play there every Saturday night for, like 6 weeks straight during the summer. And it got to where it was quite well attended. We'd have them pay a small admission fee to, cover our costs and make us feel like we were pros, I guess. But anyway, I can remember playing this song, "The House of the Rising Sun," and I'd get the mic, and it was quite dark. And one time, Lyndon's brother was home from the Marines, and he was a little bit musically inclined too. So their whole family was. But he listened to my song and complimented me on it when it was done. And I thought, well, that's cool that he liked it. And he'd mentioned it several times since. In fact, in these later days of my life, I've got together with these friends. Lyndon still likes to pull out the guitar, and he can just do it from ear. He's a good musician. And if we're in any kind of group, like our class reunion or whatever, 50th class reunion, he'd pull it out and say, "Okay, here we go. Just tap in like you used to." And he'd start playing, and I start singing. Well, anyway, it sounds like I'm crowing, and I'm really not. However, it was fun for me. It was a new experience. It surprised me. Even the bass guitar, though I didn't know how to play it, I found out that I had kind of an ear for those bass sounds. And I have it to this day. Even when I sing, I can kind of pick the notes out. even if they're slightly different than it's on the page, as long as they're in the same octaves or whatever that match. The way I seem to be able to gravitate to those notes and tones, and that's what I did with the bass guitar. I wanted to mention it just because it's one of those things in my life that was out of the ordinary for a little boy growing up on a dairy farm to actually, I mean, you'd hear about the bands, but they came out of the towns, not the little country nooks like we had. And it wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for my friend Lyndon. He put it all together, and I've been friends with him all these years. We did a lot of fun things together, camping out and dating and all kinds of things, which I might bring his name up later when I start talking more about my wife, because we started doing some double dating and things, and he was involved. Anyway, the Revels was our group, and I haven't picked a bass guitar up for a long time. I kept it around for a while. I'm not sure even what became of it. I think my younger brother used it for a little bit. And then I don't remember if it got sold or what, but I no longer have the bass guitar or the amplifier. But for a little brief history of my time, I was a rock star of sorts. I have to say of sorts, because it was anything but professional. But it was still a sweet experience for me, and a really good memory, and a happy bonding moment with my friends. And I can still remember speaking. I mentioned that it kind of integrated into my wife, into my wife's time with me when I was dating her. One time I can remember, I'll say it now in case I forget it later, but we were playing, this band was playing at our new school in my senior year. We consolidated with Fielding High School, consolidated with Montpelier High School, and it was called Bear Lake High School. I was the co-student body president that year. We had co-student body officers. I mentioned it a little bit in some of the other uploads, but we were playing over in what we call the Moose Hall, which is where our band practiced when I played the trumpet. And they had a school dance. They tried to have a lot of activities to get the kids from the two high schools to integrate and have fun together. And then they asked us, the Rebels, to play at that dance, and we did. And we just did our job, and the dance was successful, and everybody we felt like had a good time. Well, an outcome of that was kind of strange, because the next week at school, this is like on a Saturday night, the next week at school, all these kids that I knew started getting hauled into the principal's office, and some of them got expelled from school and got their privileges taken away and punished and disciplined because they were drinking. That night, I guess, while we were playing music, we knew we weren't going to get called in because we were tied up with our music the whole night. But it was kind of a strange thing, because everybody else, not everybody, but a lot of people got called in by the administration and talked to about their bad choices the night on the Saturday before that when we played at the Moose Hall. So I'm not going to go on too much tonight about that. I just thought I'd mention that group and what it was in my life, how it affected me. It's all about friendships. It really is. Wasn't the music. Not for me anyway. It was the things that carried on for me and served me through the years were the friendships that I made during that time. Those guys that I played with and we laughed with and traveled with, planned with, all of that. So nurture your relationships, treasure them, keep them alive and updated as best you can. I know it's hard. It was for me, especially after I got married. I tended to drift away from the friends I've had in high school, and maybe that's a good thing. It's my main commitment was to my wife, and we were off and going to school, my first year at school at BYU. And but the memories of the Revels still lives on and brings smiles to my face to this day. And I just wanted to share those with you and hope you receive them with love in the same way I intend to, or the same way I intended to tell you about it and have you share it with me. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a band in heaven and it'll be called the Revels, and I can join in with my very unprofessional bass guitar. Good night.